The other day, well, not the other day, yesterday, I had a very interesting conversation about the idea of morality, free will, and determinism. And I found my interlocutor to be struggling with this apparent dichotomy. The dichotomy that he kind of presented, and I think a lot of people present, is one in which if we live in a world that's deterministic, that there was an origin, and from that origin, one thing happens, and another thing happens, and another thing happens, people can't be accountable for their actions. They can't be accountable for any moral reason and the such. And on the other hand, he made the claim that if he existed in the world, if we existed in a free will world, we end up finding ourselves morally culpable. We end up saying that we have some sort of ability to change our way and we're not just rocks floating through space. One of the things that troubled me with that conversation is the apparent false dichotomy that a lot of people find themselves in. It's either deterministic or it's free will. But there's another option. But before we get to that option, I want to talk about paradigms. Thomas Kuhn is one of the most influential philosophers of science because of the way in which he approached the idea of paradigms. Now, a paradigm is this distinct set of patterns of thought or ways in which we conceive about problem solving or about understanding the world. Kuhn showed us that science has these developmental stages, where each stage has this growth and proliferation where they learn and expand their knowledge about the world. But at a certain point, the way we understand the world doesn't allow us to solve new problems, doesn't allow us to make sense of things in a better way. And I think a similar problem existed for the specific person I spoke with. So, yes, I explained what a paradigm shift is, or not what a shift is, what a paradigm is. A paradigm shift would be that moment where it swings from Newtonian physics to relativity in Einstein, or Darwin's theory of evolution changed the way we look at biology, or Freud's ideas and modern psychology changed the way we understand human behavior. But what does that feel like? I had a professor who told us this joke in class exactly when we had this topic. And the joke was, or the riddle, not very much joke, was something along the line of this. A man rides into town on Tuesday, stays for 3 days, and leaves on Tuesday. How is this possible? Now, for those who already know the answer, calm down. You'd be like, oh, what does it have to do with paradigm shifts? I want you to think of the first time that you heard the riddle, and then what happens every time now you hear the riddle. And for those who don't know and are still struggling to figure out, don't Google it. I'll let you know. The answer is that the man rides into town on a horse named Tuesday. And now at this moment right now, you go, of course, that makes tons of sense. But anytime you reach this problem ever again in your life, this type of riddle, you will never have a problem. The thing that is on, that's the name of it, is Tuesday. Tuesday is not just a day. We don't have to think of time travel or these fantastical solutions. There's a really easy way to understand this problem and reconceptualize it. Now, some of you might already go, I see how this relates to determinism and free will. Well, the issue here is that we're viewing the problem of morality, of moral accountability, between these dichotomous positions. Either things are predetermined or things are free. Or we have this free will, however you want to call it, right? Determinism and free will. But we can think of another issue, which is indeterminism. What if it was true that causation wasn't just linear? It wasn't just that one object affected another object, which affected another object, which affected another object, and now you're at the end of it, and at the end of the day, just a bunch of rocks bumping into each other, and that's where you came from. And what if it isn't also that I just have this ability of pulling myself up from my bootstraps and just making my life what it is, and I can choose to do no wrong, to do no moral hazard? This is where the concept of system sciences come on, and this idea of non-linear causality. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into non-linear causality because I think that this video does a much better job of explaining it than I do. But the gist is that sometimes events, for example, A causes B, which causes C, and then C can affect A and create this recursive pattern in which there is a degree of autonomy that we as human beings, that we as entities have about our own actions and about the world. And in this understanding, of course we have moral accountability. But it also changes the way in which, as a society, we enforce these moral codes and these moral solutions. The individual that I was talking about thought of the way in which you deal with moral problems is by punishing the person, by putting them in prison, by adjusting some type of cosmic scale, by putting them in jail is undoing a wrong. But if we think about it in an indeterministic way, in the way in which system sciences thinks of how emergent properties, how effects happen in reality, we understand that the punitive system, the justice system, isn't one that's interested in balancing some sort of cosmic scale, but about making sure that individuals learn this degree of autonomy they have over their life, where we introduce new effects, new variables, new things that are going to help these individuals actually change their life. Don't fall into the trap of conceiving of the world through one paradigm. Dare to be creative. Dare to think outside of your dichotomies. When you say it's either this or that, stop for a second and think to yourself, is there a third option that's stopping me from understanding this problem fully? Is there a third option that makes it all make sense? If you like my content and you like what I had to say, make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, stay thinking.